Chapter 1. Emily. She looked in the mirror and said to herself, "I don't want to die." She said it a second time, but louder in her mind. "I don't want to die." But she knew she was lying to herself. She says this as the velvety charm of the slow waltz music is gently drifting into the bathroom through the closed door. It's playing on an antique record player Emily had found in a quaint but expensive boutique a few years ago. She loves how it reminds her of the days she felt most alive. When she first found it, every day was full and complete. The particular day was on one of her first dates with her now husband, Willis. The record is called Echoes of an Era. It's a compilation of many 1920s waltz classics. Hearing it, especially in this particular moment, allows for a romantic dance of memories she had long forgotten. They flow through her, filling her with an unexpected moment of joy. It reminds her of happier times. The way it bounced off the tiles had began to surround her, keeping her warm. Emily stood in front of the mirror, gazing deep into her reflection as if she were searching for answers to a single solitary question that she kept asking herself. Looking past what was in the reflection and beyond, into the horizon. What she saw on the surface was her long, dark hair. She played around with it to make it more presentable, but not so much as she would if she were going to dinner. Nevertheless, her gentle waves of hair cascaded over her shoulders, framing her face, exposing the delicate and striking beauty that Willis would compliment her on at every possible opportunity. She just never truly saw it until now. The front of her bathrobe was showing her chest, but not enough to expose her breasts. She was looking at her skin, allowing the robe to slope ever so slightly off of her shoulders. She could see how her skin was smooth and radiant. It expressed a hint of warmth that could only be captured if she were kissed by the soft glow of a gentle moon. Often, she would sit out in the back at night, soaking in the silence and love of the nocturnal light. Her almond-shaped eyes were quite large and held a depth that told her story when she allowed it. One of love-filled frontier fighting to chase away the unhealed wounds. They had an amber glow that shone a warmth that was rich and inviting. Deep inside, if you looked hard enough, you could see that there was a subtle glimmer of misplaced hope that was submerged in the oceans of trepidation. It was hard to see, but she hid it well behind her daily projection of jubilant confidence. She was losing herself, 1 second at a time. Her eyebrows were one of her proudest assets, and she came by them naturally, and they required almost no maintenance. Thinking about how other women would ask how she shaped them that way made her smile. A slight parting of her full, beautiful lips revealed how stunning that smile actually was. There was a softness to her mouth, a suggestion of kindness. When you heard her speak, it was all amplified. The contours of her face sloped from her high cheekbones down to her delicately defined jawline. There was a harmonious blend of strength and grace to Emily's face. This was her favorite robe. It was given to her as her first Mother's Day gift. The fabric felt like it was molded to her as it clung to her form, making her slender frame appearing full and voluptuous. Her posture was collapsing into itself, and it was hard not to notice. Standing, looking at herself, she felt like she was looking at an artwork for the last time, as if it were the last day of her dream vacation, and this was the final moment she had to absorb the sunlight as it was setting, all while standing barefoot in the sand, watching the tide trickle away. Her eyes lingered on the sorrow as it crept to the surface. Because of this, she didn't realize her hands had begun moving, applying her makeup routine but almost with no conscious thought. Beginning with a light foundation to even out her skin, followed by a touch of mascara. Her fingers trembled a bit as she was making her second pass. It's almost time, she thought to herself, but not without some blush. It added a faint touch of color to her otherwise colorless cheeks. Finally, the muted pink lipstick was needed to bring out that natural beauty look she loved so much. Taking a step back, she approves the last looks. Happy with her efforts, she took a good look at the bathroom itself. It was newly renovated by Willis. He made it resemble a room they once stayed in. The music helped her relive that time. It was when they vacationed in Villa Monastero, a beautiful villa with such stunning gardens and beautiful views of the ocean. It was their shared dream location. It was special. When she realized how closely he was able to capture the look of that room, she felt so grateful, so loved. She now remembered how lucky she felt to be with such a great man. This made her eyes well up. It was almost too painful to think about. Still, she was not going to let it destroy all the hard work she put into her eyes. Tissues dabbed the tears away, leaving no trace. She always hated harsh lighting. Willis knew this. He was able to install soft, warm lighting in the bathroom. It cast a gentle and relaxing glow. The authentically aged tiles took that gentle light and reflected it back to her with a deep and euphoric gesture of love and attention. She ran her fingers along them, trying to harness some of that energy. They were becoming damp from the hot bath water and the diffuser, which had pine-scented oils, engulfing the space with the smell of a summertime grounded adventure. As the memory is fading, and all that is left is her reflection, she looks a little harder, hoping to find a single reason. All she could see is the sad woman she has become, the one who is breaking. The sounds of the waltz seem to mock her now. Its careless caress has become a jarring reminder of the stark virility of her silent dolor. The steam is making it hard to see her reflection. Wiping it one last time for one last radiant look and joyful expression. Slowly, she disrobed, steady and deliberate, looking at the imperfections that childbirth had done to her body. It had her wondering if she never had children, perhaps she would be happy. Her bathrobe slipped to the floor, leaving her exposed. A moment later, all emotions were gone, carried away as the cover of the steam began to creep back. She was thankful for it. Her glimmer was released. Immediately, the sting of the hot water on her toes ignited her. She winced a little as she was slowly dipping into her luxuriously deep double-ended clawfoot bathtub. As she sank, the heat enveloped her. She noticed her red knees as they poked out of the water and compared them to her pale forearms which had yet to get wet. It was a silly moment that she enjoyed, but shortly it was clear that it is now time. She leaned over with her left hand and reached for the straight razor she bought Willis for his first Father's Day. It was important to her that she ensured he couldn't look at this detail as being anything more than a convenience. She had repeated that fact in her letter to him, insisting that this was in no way a poetic gesture. Her hands trembled as she opened the blade. She fell in love looking at it. It represented a humane hero sent to release her from this prenatal sorrow. It was an anachronistic object in this carefully curated space. Its cold, sharp presence was perfect medication to silence her prenatal lamnation. Holding the razor to her forearm with her left hand, she began to whimper, mourning herself first, but this is simply an emotional reflex, not a signifier that she had any veneration left for life. With a sniffle and a single wipe of the tear rolling onto her cheek, she began the healing process. With determined pressure, the blade cut into her flesh, and at first, there was nothing. Just a long, clean opening in her arm. She felt out of her body, looking at the wound much like a mortician or a pathologist who is sent to determine the cause of death. There was no emotional connection, that is, until the blood began to flow. A smile curled up on her lips as all the pressure began to fade away. She let her arm rest on the side of the tub. The wound bled into the water and off to the side onto the floor. There was a vivid contrast between the blood, the pearl-white tile, and the antique porcelain. The smell of iron mixed beautifully with the pine. It was a soft, light, melancholic blend of midnight and summer light, taking her to a place where she could comfortably surrender, and showing her compliance, she leaned her head back and waited. It was a calm evening. There was a nice cool breeze that had the leaves rustling. A nice dependable sedan pulled into the driveway. Inside the vehicle, Willis sat patiently while his fine ride was idling. Just for a moment before turning the key, he clicked off the engine, but the radio was still on. It was playing an indie college rock band that made him feel young again. As the song was coming to an end, he turned off the car entirely. Now everything was silent. The creak of the leather seat was crisp and clear. This was his vacation. The silence allowed him to get in a quick meditation, holding on to the peace just a bit longer. He closed his eyes and leaned back against the headrest, just calming his mind and his weary bones. There was complete silence, despite a few sporadic clicks and pings of the cooling down engine. Soon the sounds of the crickets and the gentle late evening winds were swirling through him and back into the night. He was reluctant to interrupt this moment of tranquility. Inevitably, the guilt begins to set in. Leaning on the door, the interior lighting spilled out slightly onto the driveway. He paused for a moment to take in a deep breath, savoring the crisp evening air. It filled his lungs and cleared his mind. He looked up and noticed how bright the moon was. The twinkling stars off in the distance seemed to communicate with him on some level. The serene glow of the quiet suburban neighborhood grabbed his attention away from the night sky. The street lights were casting deep pockets of darkness across the well-kept lawns and tidy driveways. All the homes on the street were well manicured. The men seemed to have an unspoken competition on who was disciplined enough to maintain them with the most consistency. For years, everyone was tied at first place, all except Ryan Filks at the end of the street. No one was bothered, as he was divorced and alone. The men would try to speak to him, but were almost in fear of catching the illness he was aggressively fighting, but sadly losing the battle to. None of us wanted to be alone, he often thought when he saw Ryan. He looked down at his own lawn, which he had freshly mowed just a few days earlier. To him, this was the ideal length. Looking at it with pride, it somehow seemed to glow softly in the twilight. The garden bed he made placed up against the front of the house was in line with a docile and compassionate breeze. It allowed for the flowers to sway delicately amongst themselves as if they were dancing. The vibrant colors of the blooms projected their deep reds, soft pinks, and resplendent yellows in a surprisingly expressive display during this subtle summer's evening hours performance. This made his heart swell with pride. Dealing with death all day takes a toll on him. All the flourishing plant life left him feeling remarkably accomplished. Hard work pays off, he thought to himself, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips, knowing that all great things in life need maintenance. He knelt down so he could run his hands all over his lawn. The cool blades of grass would tickle his fingertips. He tugged out a couple and rolled them together between his fingers. This released its scent, now mingling with the subtle fragrance of the flowers. This took him to a place where he could really escape the stress of the day, a place where he could find solace in the simple act of nurturing something that doesn't need him, but appreciates his kindness. It began, the tension of the day was easing, replaced with a deep sense of contentment. Standing up, he brushed the dirt from his knees and took one last look at his handiwork. With a final, satisfied sigh, Willis turned towards the house. The knob was a little sticky, and the door creaked slightly as he opens it. This immediately reminded him that vacations and time away were not part of any man's life. The workday is only beginning. He can hear the faint serenades of the waltz music playing upstairs. He takes his shoes off and notices a little dirt tracked in with him. He then walks into the kitchen to get the broom. As he's sweeping up, he can hear the cries of his young daughter. Super Dad to the rescue, he jokes to himself while disposing the dirt outside. He moved through the house with a heavy wariness present in each one of his steps, an echoing of the stress from the day trailing behind each one of them. Placing his hand on the rail leading to the bedrooms upstairs, he is reminded that he has to wax and restain this on the weekend, amongst all the other things on the to-do list his wife had laid out for him. To his left is the master bedroom. The music is playing on the desk, but his daughter is much louder, demanding his attention. Turning to his right, he walks down the hall to rescue her. He opens her door nice and slow and then finds himself walking over to her crib in the far corner of the room. Looking in, his heart melts as his newborn daughter's face is scrunching up in distress as she cried. Gently he picked her up, cradling her in his arms and rocking her back to sleep. "It's okay, Rumi, it's okay," he whispered soothingly. Still, she cried a little more. Watching her small body wriggling in his arms begin to relax as he swayed side to side made all this worth it. He continued to bounce her gently, his voice a soft murmur of reassurance. I know, life is hard. I can't promise it'll get any easier," he said, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. Gradually, her cries subsided and was replaced with the steady rhythm of her breathing, her tiny hand gripping onto his dangling tie with surprising strength. It made him chuckle as he was trying to take it back. He could feel her warmth seep into him. She is so small, so fragile. The responsibility to keep her safe threatened to overwhelm him. To ruin this beautiful father-daughter moment would be unforgivable. The house seemed to exhale as Rumi's breathing steadied, her small body relaxing back into sleep. He placed her back in the bed, pulling her tiny blanket over her delicate body. He stood there for a moment longer, savoring another surprising moment of peace. He carefully turned away, the draw of the waltz coaxing him out into the hallway, forcing him to face the music. The exact song on the compilation was one he had heard before but didn't know the title. It was one of those songs where he would hear half the tone humming in his mind on occasion, but couldn't hear it in full focus. Fortunately, it was quiet enough not to wake the boys. He peeked into the room as he was walking past. The sight of his innocent twin heroes fast asleep brought another sense of unexpected accomplishment to his face. Their chests rose and fell in unison. It was a precious moment. He didn't even mind that their toys were scattered across the floor. It did make him sad he wasn't able to read them Sam and Sid's superhero surprise, or the magic mirror fights the mischievous Mitch and Mike, both of which were on the nightside table. But that is the job, and the job is what bought those books. He tries to instead remind himself what he does get for working so hard, and that is them, all of them, and that was worth all of his suffering. He gently closed the door, careful not to disturb their rest, anticipating a scolding or loving embrace as he moved closer to that magical rhythm which had been subtly guiding his actions the moment he opened the front door. As he enters the bedroom, the final notes of the last song draw out, and then the continuous skipping over and over as records do. Willis makes his way over to the player. He then takes the needle off, which stops the record from spinning. Turning to the closed bathroom door, he knocks gently. "Honey, I'm home. Sorry I'm late." His tone, sweet and apologetic, yet the silence made him feel as if he were not yet forgiven. After a moment, he looks around the room and notices a note on the bed. He was excited. Perhaps they were instructions or some wild and crazy rules for some new game she would like to play. Maybe she's waiting for a secret password and is quiet in anticipation, not anger. Everything floods out of him as he begins to read the words and realizes what she was really saying. Adrenaline kicks in as he throws his entire body against the door. Heath. Heath needs a safe place to go. This dimly lit bar reminded him of the days when his parents would bring him bowling on the nights they couldn't find a sitter. Back in those days, everyone smoked inside. He marveled at the decades of character all around him, in the floors, on the walls, everywhere really. The stench of old smoke and spilled beer flooded his nostrils. The walls were stained yellow and brown from the years of cigarette smoke, and the worn floors creaked with almost every step. In the areas there was carpet, you risked getting stuck inside the muck breeding on it. It was dark, it was dirty, but it fit perfectly. No one would think to look for him here. Moments before Heath entered, Jerry was sitting alone at his bar, his eyes dull and lifeless. He was nursing the whiskey he had in his left hand as he puffed on the smoke that he had in the other. He had the build of a former athlete, and his face shone exactly how former. His sagging skin and disheveled hair, which was a mix of black and gray, exposed his dark and calloused wisdom. His hands were rough, but the skin seemed thin. The wrinkles on his face made it very evident he was smoking no less than 3 packs a day, which paired nicely with his bottomless aged whiskey addiction. Behind the bar was a woman in her early 20s. Her pale, gaunt face was in line with all the fashion models in Paris these days. Jerry knows this because she showed him photos of her during her youthful runway days. A healthy cocaine habit can throw you out of the spotlight into a dank, dirty bar real quick. The relationship between them was never really established. As long as she pours beers in silence, Jerry doesn't charge her to rent the room in the back of the bar. Her once bright eyes are now dim and detached, and her hair is pulled back into a loose bun. It looks like she hasn't washed it in days. That doesn't bother most of the drunks that come in here. She has served and ignored every one of them, but they all individually dream of the day she chooses them as her provider, likely running away together after that. None of them truly understood that she was not going anywhere. She has strands of hair escaping the loose knot, and they are falling around her face, making her neck itchy. Her clothes were stained and deeply worn in. A faded shirt and old dirty jeans just barely clung to her thin frame. She almost never moved. She simply stood there with a vacant expression on her face. Her attention was glued to the television that was mounted high up on the pillar beside Jerry. The muffled dialogue of a long-forgotten sitcom punctuated by an all-too-loud laugh track had not provided her with even an ounce of joy. Unfortunately, it was the only thing to do, so she watched it all through the day and deep into the night. Jerry took that last puff and ground his cigarette into an ashtray. To his right, on the pillar with the TV, there was a no smoking sign tacked onto it, just barely hanging on. When he lit another, the flame briefly expressed the deep lines in his face before going out. He liked the way the acrid smoke mingled with the musty smell of the rank open beer bottles and dusty old fabric. Even the fume from the years of caked-on dirt packed in between the wooden slats in the floor would sporadically erupt, like some ballistic sea dispersal, to then mix with the aroma of the lemon-scented soap packed deep inside the glass cleaner, creating an unusual bouquet that would flow around him from time to time. The grime isn't the main reason that the bar is kept dim. It was by design. This wasn't meant to be a family-friendly establishment. No one who came here wanted to think about the lives they had or the lives they wished they had. They wanted to forget about everything in the world. All while inside the dark and deep shadows that the few working lights would cast around the venue. The only sounds, even when there was a full house, outside of the television, was focused on the hum of the old bar fridge that was half full of beer supplied by the local brewing company, and the occasional clink from the glass washer that was even older than his tiny, tired bartender. When the door opened and Heath walked in, it exposed the premises to the bright daylight, but only for a moment. Heath was overdressed. He had a dark gray tailored Brooks Brothers suit with a Thomas Pink, crisp cotton white dress shirt that was untucked on the left side. His black silk Hermes tie was loose and almost falling off. He had his hand clutched onto an unusual coin that made the loose fit of his Tag Heuer watch slide around while he walked towards the bar. He was clearly dressed better than Jerry, but here he was, no better than Jerry. His hair was normally slicked back, but now most of it was falling onto his face, hiding a lot of his strong masculine features. What could be seen was how his sharp jawline framed his face. It exposed his traditional upper-class features. Despite any attempts to appear strong and put together, his eyes told the whole truth. They were filled with fear, hopelessness, and despair. They were a complement to Jerry's deeply proud and impartially stoic stare. The tired young woman didn't look at him as he walked in. He almost didn't notice, his gaze landing on Jerry as he scanned the room. It was only after he didn't look at him either that Heath then recalled the bartender's lack of acknowledgement. Yet he did still feel that there was a silent misunderstanding passing between the mysterious man and himself as he took a seat close to him at the bar. He couldn't exactly explain why. The stool creaking under his weight didn't give him any attention either. The bartender, glued to the TV, her eyes never leaving the screen. He sat there as the old bar equipment hummed softly. The laugh track filled in the awkward breaks, and the silence still lingered in between. When Heath wasn't looking, Jerry stole a quick glance at what this healthy stranger was holding. The dim light was able to expose the precious coin in Heath's hand just for a moment. Jerry finally spoke, his voice rough from the years of damage done by his habits. "She won't serve you. Only me." Heath, visibly annoyed, took a deep breath, the tension in his shoulders visible. "And why's that?" He almost fumbled the delivery, but stuck the landing and sounded confident. "Because it's my bar, it's my say," Jerry replied, still looking straight ahead, his eyes glazed but determined. As if magically plucked from his body, any insecurity that was inside had completely disappeared. He stands up for a moment, waiting to see if it was a joke. He almost knocked the chair over, but he was able to catch it before it made his exit ostentatious. He wasn't looking for any kind of focused attention. He did want to release a degree of frustration, so he muttered, "Great business model." Before he could fully rise, Jerry interrupted, "2 glasses of Glen 12. Accepting the gesture, he sat back down, pocketing his coin as the young woman silently poured the drinks. Her movements were slow and deliberate, each clink of the bottle against the glass echoing through the breaks in the sitcom laugh track. The golden liquid swirled in the rocks glasses, catching the dim light and casting a warm glow on the scratched bar surface. She pushed the drinks over to Jerry and then moved back to her previous position. Heath was too distracted to observe her unusual behavior. Jerry turned to face the bar, Heath now to his left. It was with that hand he grabbed the glass and started to drink from it. He then turned to face Heath. He walked over, sliding the glass meant for him along the bar. Just as it was in reach, Jerry sat down and leaned on the bar, blocking Heath's access to the drink. The scent of the aged whiskey mingled with the stale air. It carried over from Jerry's glass. This created a brief moment of anticipation. "Can you put your coin on the bar?" Jerry asked, his voice steady and unyielding. Heath was hesitant, but decided to grant the request. He placed it on the bar with a deliberate motion, peeling his palm off of it like a magician's reveal. "It's a 4-year. I'm not holding a 20 or anything significant." Jerry's eyes lingered on the coin, the subtle recognition of a shared struggle passing between them. The young woman behind the bar continued to watch the TV. She had a constant but unobtrusive presence to their interaction. The television would drone on, its laugh track now a distant, almost forgotten distraction. 4 years is still significant, Jerry responded, pulling out a stool to sit more comfortably. He sipped his drink slowly. I'm going to tell you a story, then you're going to tell me a story. Depending on how that goes will determine if I give you this drink, and then as many as you can handle till we close in about 7 hours. This proposal was unusual to him, but it wasn't odd enough to reject. Okay, he said, with a calm and confident tone. Jerry extended his hand. I'm Jerry. Heath shook it. Heath. Jerry continued. You watch baseball, Heath? This felt like a test. He wasn't sure if he could fail, so he decided to be honest. Nope, Heath replied, his tone flat. I hate it because my dad loved it. My mom left when I was young, so it was just the two of us. He wasn't very lucky in his life, and that meant mine wasn't lucky either. Little to eat, cold in the winter. He always had the game on, though. Some nights he'd have made a little extra cash, so he bought some beer, or if it was a real good day, he'd get something harder. Either way, I knew it was going to be a bad night for me. He never hit me or anything. I just knew I wouldn't see him for a few days after that. Getting him to see me was the only thing on my mind. I tried it all. Jerry's gaze grew distant, lost in the memories. I remember thinking there was no hope. If violence or petty crime didn't faze him, I was going to have to make it on that TV of his. Then maybe I could be part of the one thing he actually loved. And wouldn't you know it, I finally found the key to his attention. I was at practice and I saw him standing by the fence. That smile of his, I'd never seen him so happy. I've been chasing that dragon ever since. That smile is what love looks like to me now. I never liked the sport, but I was good enough to make it to the big league. He never saw me play there, though. Like I said, he wasn't lucky in life. As I was coming up, he got real sick and died. My first big league game was supposed to give me purpose. I was in the shower well after everyone left, bawling my eyes out. I missed him. The man only cared about me when I became a ball player, and he wasn't even here to see it. Prior to that point, I never had a single drink. Not a drop. But that emptiness was only ever able to be filled with whiskey. It was the only thing that was able to turn off that pain. Until my number finally came up. That number is now about 2 years. Incurable, they say. There's a freedom in knowing when you're going to die. You think that you'll hop on a plane and do all the things you're too scared to do, but I'm going to live every last one of those days in here. Heath looked at Jerry. He felt like that decision was quite tragic. He wanted to know the reason he would waste the remaining days of his life. So with concern in his voice, he asked, "Why?" Jerry smirked. I don't know. Maybe if I can straighten someone out, I'll feel like it's possible to leave. Jerry punctuated that statement by taking another sip of his drink. How do you decide? Heath asked, glancing at the coin. Say again? Jerry asked. He was beginning to slow down. On whose problems to solve? Elaborated Heath. Jerry looked at him and simply said, I trust my gut. There was a moment of silence as Heath prepared himself. I guess that makes it my turn. Heath tucked the coin back into his pocket, ready to share his story. You saw the coin, and are you wondering why I'm going to throw it all away? Jerry looked at him in the eyes with deep pity. It crossed my mind, he admitted. I've been thinking about this a lot. I keep getting stuck on a moment. My mind keeps playing it over and over, I don't understand why my brain is torturing me. I just want to forget it. In the beginning, my girl was great. I would replay those years on a loop," Heath began, his voice filled with the sorrow tone of someone in mourning. He turned back to the bar, pulling out his coin again, hiding it in his fist. 4.5 with her, 6 without, 4 years sober. Then, as fate would have it, she called me. "What for?" Jerry asked. "She has something I need, and she knows it. So we meet for coffee." Heath didn't leave it vague intentionally, but corrected his mistake after Jerry asked, "What did she have?" Heath hesitated, the pain of the memory evident, but tried to make sure he isn't leaving out important details. "A book. My mother was an author. She had my mom's signed copy. Inside it is a personal message to me that I need. My mom and I were out for a walk when I was 10. I saw a mud puddle, and in a flash decision, as kids do, I tried to push her in it. I slipped, she slipped, and then landed on a big log with a branch that lodged into her chest. That book is all I have left. Her death tore my family apart. My sister and I make our living at conventions. I'm like a parasite, no talents of my own. My sister writes, but I can't really figure it out. I just want that damn book." As we were at coffee, Helen started playing her games, but I had no patience for it. So she said the one thing that hits harder than anything else could. The kind of thing that makes you debate throwing it all away. Jerry held in what he had just heard. He was letting it breathe in his mind as he finishes his drink. Turning around, he waves a bottle over, and the bartender brings it to him without hesitation. As he pours himself another, he makes sure to place the bottle beside the pillar with respect. He then delivers his statement with a deep and profound cadence, which really resonated with Heath. "Every man needs a woman to drag him to the edge and push him over. It's a gift. If you dig yourself out, you become unstoppable. Almost godlike." Jerry took a sip of his drink and turned to face forward again. He held for a moment, then pushed the drink over to Heath. He looked at the glass, ripe for the taking. This was a moment when he began to think about what she would think of him. Would she be happy he gave up? One last laugh in his face as she puts the last nail in his coffin? With great difficulty, he decides to put his coin back in his pocket and back away from the bar. As he walked to the exit, he was blocked by Helen, who stood in the doorway, shocked to see him. She was dressed all in red, her expensive jacket only slightly shorter than her skirt. Her handbag hung low, covering her knees, with her hands both holding the handle by her fingertips. Her pinky fingers rested on it, not gripping. Her lips were tight, slightly perched downward, as if fighting to keep them up. It was her eyes that showed her love for him, pushing out through the surprise of seeing him here. She just looked at him, anticipating what violent words he'd speak to her. "Did you follow me here?" Heath asked in confusion. Helen waited what seemed like a lifetime before she replied. The afternoon sun cast a warm glow over the backyard patio. He sat there smoking a cigarette, his body language closed off and defensive. His pregnant sister Emily sat across from him, her concern evident in her eyes. "You sure that she has it?" Emily asked, her voice tinged with worry. "As sure as I can be," Heath replied, his tone heavy with uncertainty. Emily pressed on. "What did you say?" Heath butted out his cigarette, his hand trembling slightly. He gritted his teeth as he reached into his pocket to light another. His sister wafted the smoke away, her expression a mix of concern and exasperation. "Do you have to smoke so much? You're going to make Rumi sick," she chided. Heath looked at her. His eyes spoke to her, expressing that he needed it, and what his sister claimed simply wasn't true. He lit the cigarette and took a deep, long drag, holding it in before speaking. "Your baby will be fine. he said, dismissing her concern. Second-hand kills, Heath, Emily reminded him, her tone firm yet caring. He exhaled the smoke at the side of his mouth as a compromise. What did I say? What could I say? Under the circumstances, I said yes, he confessed, his voice strained. He took another deep drag. I definitely can't go alone. You know what'll happen if I do. She'll find a way to suck me back in. I can't start drinking again. Aren't you being a bit dramatic? Emily asked, wafting the smoke away once more. Just be strong. Get in and get out. He shook his head, a deep frown creasing his forehead. I got a real bad feeling about it, he muttered. Emily, seeing his distress, offered, Want me to go get it? I'll go get it. Heath's frustration bubbled over. She'll have some reason why you can't have it once you're there. Like she's having some high-end book authenticator praising it so we know how valuable it is. Honestly, I would not be surprised. That way she'd know the sentimental and financial value it has to me, he explained, his voice rising with each word. Why can't I just try? Emily insisted, her patience thinning. I need her out of my life as soon as possible, okay? Let me think, Heath snapped. Emily softened, sensing his need for a solution. How about you bring me with you? She suggested gently. Heath considered it, his mind racing. 2 adults, too threatening, he said, shaking his head. Take Bobby then, would that work? Emily suggested, her tone hopeful. Heath hesitated, thinking about her offer. The stress was evident on his face. He looks up to me and I don't want to risk letting him see me look weak, he admitted. That was hard for him to do. He always felt like he was meant to be a father, not an uncle. It just never happened for him. Maybe it's the incentive you need. Besides, he's 6. You're a god in his eyes. Nothing can change that, Emily reassured him. He took a moment, ashing his cigarette. Emily stood up, exposing her pregnant belly, and walked into the house. Let me go get him, she said, her voice echoing slightly. Bobby, you're going for a ride. The sports car roared down the road, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the landscape. Bobby was in the passenger seat. His excitement was spilling out all over the car. Make it go faster, Bobby exclaimed, his eyes wide with exhilaration. He saw the upcoming red light and began to downshift, bringing the car to a gradual halt. Bobby's excitement waned as the car slowed. That's all we can do for now, he said, his tone gentle yet firm. As they waited at the red light, Bobby broke the silence. You ever keep a secret, Uncle Heath? He asked, his voice curious. A secret? Heath replied, caught off guard by the question. He looked at the light, hoping it would turn green soon. It didn't. Why asking about that, kiddo? Heath asked, trying to mask his discomfort. I don't know. Some people keep secrets, Bobby said, his tone thoughtful. The light finally turned green, and Heath drove on, relief evident in his voice. Funny you brought it up, pal. I have a secret. Think you want to hear it? His eyes lit up. Yeah, okay, Bobby agreed, his curiosity piqued. Heath continued, his voice growing softer. Did you know that your grandma wrote a lot of special books? The boy looked a little confused. No, Bobby replied, shaking his head. There is a long stretch of empty road. Heath stepped on the gas a little, making Bobby scream with excitement. Heath shortly slowed back down to the limit. Grandma made a lot of money telling all sorts of stories to people all over the world. Pretty cool, right? The excitement on his face was precious. Everywhere? Bobby asked, his eyes wide with amazement. Every place you can think of, Heath confirmed. Are we going to see Grandma now? Bobby asked, his voice filled with hope. No, Grandma passed away before you were born. But you remember that tree you have at the lake house? Heath asked. Yeah? Bobby nodded. She planted that at our house in the country. So as a housewarming gift for your mom and dad, your grandpa dug it up and moved it out there. We're going to go see someone else who has one of your grandma's books. I lost it one night, and this girl found it for me. Here's my secret, though. She scares me, Heath admitted, his voice playful in his childish, fearful tone. Scares you? Why? Bobby asked, his young mind struggling to understand. I feel like she's able to take over my brain, make me act funny, Heath explained, his voice heavy with the burden of his fears. Is she magic? Bobby asked, his eyes wide with wonder. Heath gazed at Bobby's smile. It gave him a small comfort. In a way. So I need you to promise that you'll make sure that we just go in, get the book, and get out. Can you do that? I'm counting on you. Yeah, I can do that, Bobby agreed, his voice filled with determination. And with a sudden deep thud, everything went black. As Heath opened his eyes, he could hear the commotion. Things began to focus out of the haze of pain and confusion. He was on the sidewalk. Sitting up, the smell of gasoline and burning rubber was everywhere. His body ached, each breath sending sharp pangs through his ribs. Dazed, he blinked away the blur from his eyes and took in the chaotic scene around him. It didn't make sense. Where am I? He thought. The car he had been driving was a mangled wreck, its passenger side crushed under the weight of a long-haul truck. Heath just watched the woman from another car. She was just standing there screaming. It didn't look real to him. None of this was real. He wiped the glass off his face, which began to cut him, and he looked at his hands, which were now covered in blood. He barely registered the wail of the distant sirens piercing through the heavy silence that seemed to envelop him. Despair washed over him as the realization hit him. Bobby, he stands up, but falls down immediately as his leg was broken in half. Looking back, it was twisted in an ungodly way, so he began crawling towards the car, screaming Bobby's name as the sounds of the accident began to flood in, fast and deafening. He blacked out again as he saw his nephew's body mixed up in the twisted metal. Willis. Heath's apartment was dark, the windows closed tightly. If one were to walk through his home following the sound of the ringing phone, they would be tracking through a depressing, cluttered, and filthy hellhole Heath is now living in. In the kitchen, where the ringing is coming from, there is an old-style receiver hanging on the wall. After several unanswered rings, Heath enters to finally answer. He was tattered and gray, clearly much older. It's looking like life has hit him hard. Hello? Heath's voice was dry and scratchy. Willis was on the other end. Heath? It's Will. Can you talk? In the bright kitchen of Emily and Willis's home, Emily was sobbing into a pillow on the couch. Willis was in the kitchen giving her privacy while talking. It's good to hear your voice, buddy, Willis said, his voice filled with genuine relief. What do you want? Heath asked, his tone guarded. I'm so sorry to be the one to tell you like this. I got bad news. Willis began, his voice heavy with sorrow. Okay, Heath replied, bracing himself for what was to come. Your dad was in a car accident. He didn't make it. I'm so sorry. Willis delivered the news, his voice cracking slightly. There was a long beat. Willis looked back to check on Emily, ensuring she was still out of earshot. In Heath's dark kitchen, he pressed the phone against his chest, trying to bury his feelings. He quickly gathered himself and took a breath before speaking again. When did this happen? Heath asked, his voice strained. Last night. When was the last time you saw him? Had it been a while? Willis inquired gently. He was coming to see me, actually. We spoke about it. He insisted that he had to come and see me. I don't know why. Heath replied, his voice filled with a mix of confusion and regret. He opened his fridge and poured himself a glass of water. Oh no, Willis said, his voice filled with sympathy. Yeah, Heath sighed. Listen, thanks for the call. I should get going. It's like... There was a moment where he wanted to cry, but lucky for him, Willis disrupted that urge. Wait, I need to ask you something. It can't wait, it's pretty big, Willis said urgently. He quietly made his way into the den, trying his best not to be seen. What is it? Heath asked, his curiosity piqued. Willis hesitated, nervous about what he was going to ask. It's a very serious favor. There was a slight degree of fear lingering in his tone, and Heath could hear it. If you need something, just ask, Heath prompted. His tone had a hint of distant understanding. Right. You're right. I'm sorry. Emily would like you to pick up your father's ashes and drive them up to the cabin, but she doesn't want you to stay. I told her that's unreasonable, but she won't budge, Willis explained, his voice filled with frustration. That's it? Heath asked, his tone flat. No, I need you to insist you're going to stay the weekend. She wants to stay a week. I need you to make her want to go back home right away. The next day if possible. If we're seen by anyone at all, we're as good as dead. What I'm about to tell you has to stay between us. Can you keep a secret? Willis asked, his voice filled with a sense of urgency and fear. Willis began to hold his breath. He stood up from his chair and began to pace while waiting for Heath's response. Yeah, sure, Heath replied, his voice steady, despite the seriousness of the request. Willis quivered, his eyes watering up. He looked back through the door one last time to make sure no one would hear. He wiped his eyes and then rubbed them to clear his head. There's a local crime syndicate. It runs the area. They don't work in our community. Wealth attracts police. Still, the boss from that territory has daughters who spend time with the kids up there. One night there was a party and one of his girls got into some trouble, and Rumi witnessed it. To make her forget what she saw, the girl cut her in the face real bad, blinding her eye, Willis explained, his voice shaking. Heath's voice came through the phone, filled with concern. When did this happen? 5 years ago. That's when the police got involved. Rumi didn't keep quiet and the girl went to jail. I was proud until I was visited by a man who took me to meet her father. He runs an army of men from Narva, Estonia. They all speak Russian except when they're around him. He's not from Narva, and he makes them speak English only. Believe me when I stress that you have to be very respected to do that. This man told me that he was going to kill me and then my family until he saw what my business was. Giving him access to it and never coming back is the deal that's keeping us alive. So can you make sure she doesn't want to stay for more than 1 day? Willis pleaded, his voice cracking under the weight of his fear. Can't you tell her? Heath asked. His voice felt as if he was losing interest in the request. She'll go straight to the police. The second there's wind of that, we're all dead. There's no second chances for us, okay? Bullets to the head. This is less of a risk. I've seen him. I've seen what he's capable of. It's the only way to keep everyone alive. Emily's book is finished, and with the money we get from it, I can fix all this, Willis explained, his voice filled with a desperate hope. Heath took a deep breath. He felt this was a bad idea, but he couldn't say no, so he simply replied, Okay. Willis felt some relief. Will you do it? Get the urn? Spread the ashes and make her want to go? He asked, his voice trembling. There was a long pause. The dead air filled the room. Heath? Willis checking to see if there was still a connection, but there was no immediate answer. He repeated himself after a few seconds. It felt like an eternity. Heath? He was moments away from panic before he heard Heath's voice. Yeah, I think I can handle that, he said, his voice steady. Relief spilled over Willis's face. Oh my God, thank you. I'll call you tomorrow with all the information, he said, his voice filled with gratitude. As Heath hung up the phone, he never felt so alone. As if she could feel he needed her, his baby girl, a bull terrier, walked up to him. She was his rock, his everything. The love she gave him was so pure, unlike any he could find anywhere else. She saw him, felt him, and understood him on a level no living creature ever has. He placed his hand on her head, feeling a moment of calm. He walked over to a small cabinet with no door. It was part of a grounding ritual he made for himself. Inside was a whiskey bottle still in its box beside a single glass. He took it down, sliding the wooden panel down just enough to look at the bottle. When he did this, he took in all sensory information: the feel of the wood, the sound it made as it slid open, the smell that came of the friction from that motion, all to reveal the bottle itself. He would touch the glass with his fingertips. Then he would imagine what it would feel like to open it and take a drink. What would that mean for him? What would the consequences be? This was the true test to see if he imagined good things or bad. He struggled for a moment before sliding the cover back. Only bad things will come from taking a drink. He then takes the glass down to wash it. This was an important step. Maintaining the integrity of the symbolic sobriety he keeps on that shelf requires a clean slate each time. If it's dirty, the next time he looks, he knows he's winning. If it's clean, he still has more work to do. Heath. In a basement AA meeting with Sandra. She's a middle-aged woman full of hope. She patiently stood in front of a small crowd. Hello everyone, my name is Sandra, as most of you know, and I'm grateful to be in this room with all of you today. As I stand here, I can't help but reflect on the journey of time and how it has shaped my life. Time, for me, used to be a heavyweight, a constant reminder of pain and struggle. It seems to move so slowly, dragging me through moments of darkness and despair. But today, as I look around this room, I see the light that time has brought into my life, she began, her voice filled with warmth. I see each of your faces, each representing a story of strength and resilience. Time has been our teacher, showing us that with each passing day, we have the power to heal, to grow, and to transform our lives. I remember the days when the tick of the clock felt like torture, a reminder of past mistakes and missed opportunities. But through this journey, I've learned that time is not our enemy, it's our ally. It gives us the chance to start anew, to make better choices, and to embrace the present moment with gratitude and courage. She looked around the room, her eyes resting on Heath. Today, I want to congratulate Heath on his 25 years of sobriety. Heath, your journey is a testament to the power of time and the strength of the human spirit. You've shown us that no matter how dark the past may seem, there's always a hope in the present. Your resilience inspires us all to keep moving forward, one day at a time. So let's cherish this moment, this precious gift of time we have together. Let's celebrate each other's victories, support each other through challenges, and continue walking this path of recovery with courage and grace. Thank you all for being a part of my journey, and may we all find peace and joy in the present moment. Congratulations, Heath, and to all of us on this incredible journey of recovery. It's an honor. The room erupted with applause as Heath stood up from the front row, feeling deeply conflicted. It showed in his hesitant movements as he began to walk up to the stage. Time is something I thought healed all wounds, he began, his voice heavy with emotion. I never really kept track of my sobriety, but this would mean my actions caused the death of my nephew 21 years ago. That means my niece, that I never met yet, is old enough to drink. He took in a deep breath, struggling to continue. That has been hard for me. This is supposed to be a beautiful moment, and in a lot of ways it is. My sobriety brought me into most of your lives. That connection, that giving back I was able to do, helped with my forgiveness. I'll never fully forgive myself, but I will allow myself to keep on going. I feel it most when I go to sleep. I think maybe I'll drink that bottle and this will turn into a blur, and I won't feel it anymore. I think that's why I don't. I need to remember it. At this point, it's all that I have left, besides my Julie. Heath choked up, wiping a tear from his eye. I found out my father died today. That is a new feeling. I lost connection with him. I've seen him over the years, but he never really reconnected with me over the death of my mother. I think a lot about why, and I never really got an answer. Then I did the same thing, so I guess I can understand it now. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I'm going to see my sister at their lake house. We haven't spoken since we were at the hospital. I didn't talk to her when she tried to kill herself. I didn't say anything where the kids got into college. One of them's making his way through the wrestling circuit. I just get calls from Willis every few years, filling me in. I think I am going to try and connect with my family. I think I am well enough to. If I can get to 25 years, I think I can do that also. He nodded, indicating he was finished, and Sandra stepped forward, giving him the sobriety coin. He looked at it, overwhelmed with emotion. I am so proud of you, Sandra said, her voice filled with sincerity. I didn't think life was supposed to be this hard. I feel like I'm going to fall apart right now, Heath confessed, his voice trembling. I'm always just a call away, Sandra assured him, giving him a comforting hug. As they separated, Heath waved at the applauding crowd, feeling emotions he didn't understand at the time. He wanted to leave, but also stay. It was too much, but he pushed through it because it was the right thing to do. Willis. In a dirty, dimly lit office building, Willis was being dragged down a hall by two large and intimidating men. Willis was covered in cuts and bruises, as if he had been in an accident. There were screams echoing through the halls, and they grew louder, mixed with a deep packing sound as they drug him down the hall. At the end of the hall was a large room draped in plastic. A single desk and a chair were the only furniture. The men planted Willis into the chair and stepped back. He felt the throbbing of his face, the sharp stab in his ribs, and the burning of the cuts on his back. None of this anguish filled him with more trepidation as sitting in this seat had done. These injuries may kill him. He had time to make peace with that. What was out of sight might do something to him he can't possibly imagine. The anxiety filled him with agony. As a means to stave off the panic, he thought about his family. The day his daughter was born. This was all because of her. But if this was all to end right here, in any way, no matter what the torment he might feel, it was all worth it. Rumi was the greatest gift he could have ever asked for. One of the hitmen, speaking with a heavy accent, called out to someone in the adjacent room. Grovojetny, we have the father. There was a pause, and the room fell silent before the voice responded from the other room. Leave him there. I'm still working. The tone, the grizzle, the stone-cold death steeping out of that voice was like a splash of cold water. Now it was all Willis could think of. Who is this man? What is he going to do to me? The hitman left Willis alone, and he listened to the disturbing sounds coming from the other room. The packing sounds continued, along with splashing that could have been water but likely was blood. The screaming stopped abruptly, leaving only the sound of that blood dripping onto the tile floor. Willis subconsciously began counting, hoping this was all a dream. After a moment, a large man who was clean-shaven and had long hair tied back out of the way had entered the room. He was covered in blood and tattoos. He was holding a large kitchen knife still dripping with blood. His eyes were something Willis had never seen on a living man. In his line of work, he'd seen those eyes countless times, just on bodies he was going to shortly incinerate. This man was as close to a monster as he had ever witnessed in his waking life. "You noticed the plastic?" Krovozhetny said, without a trace of an accent. "Yes," Willis replied, trying to hide that his voice was shaking with terror. Krovozhetny smiled, reading Willis's fear. "I run a Russian mafia, and I like chopping people up. Krovozhetny means bloodthirsty. I earned that name. A name like this says exactly what kind of man you're talking to." Willis tried to maintain his composure despite his unbridled terror. "I can tell you're a serious man." This almost offended the mobster. "Why did you let your daughter talk?" Krovozhetny demanded, his tone calm but menacing. "I tried to get her to stay out of it. I did. I really tried, I swear," Willis stammered. He was filled with desperation. "Fear. That is what gets you respect. If the respect slacks, even a little, you have to strike fast to remind people why they feared you to begin with. Letting a coward like you and your dirt family attack mine means death in this line of work. There's no way around it. I feel the respect of my men may begin to wane. If you can disrespect my family and get away with it, maybe they can too. Take me out. Take what I have, leaving all that I love burned to the ground. You have something I want. Giving it to me will show a purpose to leaving you and your family alive," Krovozhetny explained, his voice steady and cold. "What is it?" Willis asked, his fears overly visible at this point. He had realized there's no reason to try and hide it. "You have a chain of funeral homes, all which can burn up bodies pretty well. So, I want you to let my guys burn any bodies they need to, whenever they need to. Sound good?" Krovozhetny asked, his tone almost casual. Willis tried to think clearly despite his consternation. "With all due respect, that's not possible. There's a long list of reasons why. For starters, we can't turn the ovens on without a death certificate or an authorization form. If the ovens are used without a disposition permit, my license to operate would be revoked. If we could do one, we would still have to wait 48 hours between death and the cremation. There are so many people that are in check on the comings and goings. A simple audit would show one single firing at a sink. It could take up to 4 hours to burn a body, and that amount of time, if anyone notices that there is a cremation happening off the books, authorities would be alerted instantly. It's impossible," he explained, his voice shaking. Krovozhetny listened intently, his expression unchanging. "Go into that room," he ordered, his tone deadly serious. Willis, terrified but compromised, walked cautiously into the adjacent room. Inside, there was a man, mostly a torso, hanging from a meat hook. The blood had stopped dripping, leaving a puddle on the floor, already beginning to coagulate. Krovozhetny is behind him. "Think carefully before you answer. My men will go grab your family, and they will look like this guy, except I will be way more cruel. This man has a shop we protect. He paid us on time every month. Yesterday, his payment was a little late. The first time he was ever late. Never missed a penny. This morning he tried to pay me the rest. But you don't get second chances with me unless you can take out my trash, Grosjetny explained, his voice calm but still menacing. Are you going to take out my trash? Willis held his hand over his mouth, trying not to vomit. As he regained his composure, he tried to answer with poise. It will take a lot of money, but I believe we can work this out. Grosjetny smiled, pleased with the response. If you want to keep off this hook, you can never say no. Not once, not ever. You have to leave town tonight. If you ever come back, you will all be dead by morning. Willis swallowed hard, nodding his head. A genuine smile grew out of that serious scowl. Turning his back to Willis and dismissing him with a wave of his hand, Willis stumbled out of the room, his mind racing with fear and confusion. As he made his way out of the building, he knew he had no choice but to comply with Grosjetny's demands. His family's lives depended on it. Heath. In the bright daylight, Heath was looking into the mirror after shaving. He normally looks at himself, inspecting all the signs of aging. He never tried to color his beard, and that added a few decades, but he was lucky that he always had a full head of hair, and no grays. It made him feel depressed to watch himself get older, but today was a new day. He looked down, happy to see his loving and excited puppy smiling at him. Hey Julie, you like the new look? He asked, picking her up. She licked his face and he laughed, setting her down. He wiped his face and quickly washed it. He then went to go into the kitchen. She followed him down the hall. He grabbed his keys and then she went with him as he walked towards the closet. Last night he was in a hurry and left his keys on the counter, but the closet by the door is where he left his jacket. After putting it on, he picked up her leash and they headed out together. Heath sat in a bland waiting room. The cheap steel chairs hurt the back of his legs. They were too hard, and he felt uncomfortable under the fluorescent lights. He focused on Julie, who just licked his hands affectionately, providing a calming presence. As he deeply massaged her head, a woman from the front desk called out, "Heath?" He stood up, pointing to Julie to stay put. "That's me," he replied. The woman didn't look up from the computer. "You'll have to come back tomorrow," her tone almost filled with disgust. "What are you talking about?" Heath asked. He was genuinely confused. She finally looked at him with little expression. "So what time is good for you?" Anger brewed within him. He has not ever been treated with such disrespect. Now's a good time for me. Do you know who I am? Who I'm here to pick up? My dad is the father-in-law of the man who owns this place," Heath explained. "I'm sorry, sir, but you'll have to come back tomorrow night," she said, turning her attention back to her computer. "We can do tomorrow night at 7. Heath tried to process the shocking dismissal. "Listen to me. I'm here to pick up my dad's ashes. My family's having a funeral in 2 days. I can't wait." He was sure this wasn't happening. It felt like this was some sort of joke. "I can't help you," she said, her tone flat. "Is there anyone else I can speak to?" Heath asked. It is clearly expressed that he is losing his patience. She leaned over her desk and noticed Julie. "That can't be in here." There was a look of disgust that offended him. "What? She came in with me." Heath, incredulous in his reply. "You have to take it outside before I can go see where those ashes are," she stated, turning back to her computer. He stood there for a moment, stunned, before deciding to put Julie in the car. Outside, he put Julie into the back seat of his sensible sedan, which was parked in a virtually empty lot. It was a chilly fall afternoon. He popped the trunk and pulled out a small dog jacket from underneath a heavy bowling ball bag. Returning to the back seat, he put it on Julie with the same care as if he were dressing his child. "You be a good girl, okay? I'll only be a few minutes. Give me a kiss," he said in a loving parental tone. Julie licked his face, making him laugh before he reluctantly walked back to the office. As Heath re-entered the waiting room, a woman named Anna was waiting for him with an embarrassed look on her face. The front desk woman remained unfazed and bored. "Mr. Tremblay, I'm so sorry. This was a huge mistake. It's all prepared now. Please follow me," Anna said, gesturing for him to follow. As he was walking down the hallway, he began fantasizing how he could get that rude girl fired. His revenge fantasy was interrupted as they stopped at Anna's office, when she politely opened the door for him and he suddenly forgot why he was angry. Carrying a box cradle in his arms, Heath exited the building, only to see that his backseat window had been smashed out, and Julie was missing. Fumbling with his keys, he opened the trunk to put the box safely inside. Once it was secure, he was frantic, looking around for his dog. A local man stood nearby, smirking. "Having one of those is illegal," the local said, his tone smug and filled with indignation. Heath glanced at him. He was shocked and a little confused. "Were you talking to me?" It was a strange mixture of emotions for him. Mostly, the confrontation he's experiencing has never happened. He has played out scenarios like this before in his head, but never actually thought he would ever experience one. Most of the time, he's invisible. If this is what it means to be seen, then he doesn't want it. "I watched you stash that killer in the back, so I called the police. You city assholes think you can do anything. Kids run and play out here. They deserve to stay safe," the local confirmed, his voice dripping with contempt. "The cops took my dog?" Heath asked, his confusion turning to anger. "Dog? Don't make me laugh. Those are child killers. You're a real piece of shit for putting our normally safe community in that much danger," said the local, who's now showing his true colors. Heath's frustration boiled over. He figured he would win if they fought, but what would he get out of it? It was a quick decision. "You know what? I don't have time for this. Where'd they take her?" The local responds. "Hopefully the dump." Heath stood frozen, his fists clenched, as the local man looked at him, then spit on the ground. Rage surged through him, boiling over as he began to walk forward. The local man, now looking frightened, raised his phone like a feeble shield. "Don't touch me, asshole. I'll press charges and you'll do time," the local stammered, his voice shaky and cowardly. Heath stopped, his body trembling with anger. The local's confidence then grew and said, "I'm filming this. I got you on camera. Don't do anything stupid." But Heath couldn't hold back any longer. He lunged forward, snatching the phone from the local's hand and then hurled it across the parking lot. "Buddy, you really need to leave," Heath growled back. The local, now visibly terrified, scrambled to retrieve his phone, muttering curses under his breath. Heath ignored them, pulling out his own phone to make a call. "Hello, my name's Heath Tremblay. I think some cops broke into my car and took my dog. I want her back," he said, his voice tight with frustration. He inspected the damage to his car window as he waited on hold. Heath barged through the doors of the Animal Control Center, heading straight for the front desk. His frustration was expressed on his face as he approached Uma, the timid front desk clerk. "Hi, I'm Heath. We spoke on the phone. You guys have my dog?" Heath said, his voice edged with desperation. Uma looked sad and timid. She slowly pulled her chair out and moved over to her desk, returning with a large envelope and a collar resting on top of it. She gently handed it to him. "Here you are, sir," she said, her voice soft. Heath frowned, looking at the envelope and the collar. "What is this?" he asked, confusion and dread creeping into his voice. "I am so sorry, but that breed is illegal in this county. It was destroyed. That's the law here," Uma explained, her voice trembling with regret. Heath's eyes widened with shock. Wait, you killed her? He whispered, barely able to process the words. Uma nodded, looking almost sickened with herself. I'm sorry, but we had no choice, she said before quickly retreating to the back room. Heath stood outside the pound, drained and alone, staring at his broken car window. The chilly late afternoon air bit at his skin, but he barely felt it. His mind was numb with grief and anger. Excuse me, said a soft voice. Heath barely moved, glancing over to see a young woman, Kara, standing nearby. She was in her early 20s, warm and empathetic. Is that your car? Kara asked gently. Yes, Heath replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Kara almost missed it. Heath then drops his head before giving up to sit down on the curb, pulling the collar up to his face, beginning to dump out all of his pain. Kara kneels down to his level, hoping to maybe help him. Oh no, I got you, it's okay, Kara said in an almost panicked tone. Heath quickly gathered himself, gently pulling away. He's too guarded to accept that kind of support from a woman, especially a young woman. The fact that she's stunning makes it worse. He doesn't hate these facts about her, he just doesn't want to taint her innocence. I'm okay, you can stop now. She was a little embarrassed, her arms pulled away quickly. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean... He made sure it was clear. It's not you, I'm having a hard day. A hard life is more like it, he said, his voice breaking. Kara sat down beside him, getting comfortable, rubbing her shins to warm up. Did you want to talk about it? She asked, her tone caring. You don't want to hear it, trust me, Heath replied, his voice flat. I can make you a deal. I need to get to Langdon. If you're going out that way, we can talk while we drive. Might be just what you need, Kara offered, hoping to help. He stays silent, holding the collar, bringing it to his lips, and trembles his words a bit as he acknowledges her requests. I am in no state to drive, but I need to go. I have some place to be. He's fighting off any signs of mourning. Is it on the way to Langdon? Kara asked. I don't know where it is. All I know is I keep driving that way, he said, pointing. That's the way I need to go too. Where are you going exactly? The ride to Langdon is over 2 hours, Kara explained. Heath pointed again. I'm driving that way for 2 days. Okay, so why don't you hand me the keys and I'll drive. Give you a little break. Some time to rest. I'm Kara, by the way. Who are you? She asked, extending her hand. Heath, he replied, without thinking, handing her the keys. He walked to his car like a zombie. Kara looks around for a second before following, mostly to see if this guy's actually alone. She's a very cautious girl. Traveling alone as a young girl can be dangerous. The drive was along a single-lane highway. The deep forest lining the road is the only scenery. Kara gripped the steering wheel, occasionally glancing at Heath, who slumped over the passenger seat. Are you just going to keep quiet? Kara asked gently. Heath sighed, staring out the window. We don't need to talk. It's fine, he replied, his voice heavy with exhaustion. I know we don't know each other, but I really do want to help if I can, Kara said, her tone embarrassed but sincere. Heath looked over at her, seeing her concern. He felt sympathy for her. She had her whole life ahead of her. She doesn't yet know how things are inevitably going to turn out for her, the same way they turn out for everyone. You never know you're in the best years of your life until you're far enough away to hold them as fond memories. Sometimes he would argue with himself as to whether or not it was cruel to even have memories. They are callous reminders of a time that was good and a stark contrast as to how your life is now. So melancholic. If he could go back and try again, there is so much he would do differently. You're a nice girl. As you age, life will become very cruel. Julie was an angel. She was the only thing in this world that kept me breathing. I have my dad's ashes in my trunk. He died driving out to see me. No one I love in this life is safe. I'm being slowly choked to death and I don't understand why, Heath confessed, his voice breaking. Kara was speechless, embarrassed that she couldn't help. Maybe this is as bad as it gets, she suggested weakly. Heath shook his head. It hasn't gotten this bad in years, but I'm gonna need a drink. It's not healthy for me to sit with all this pain at this point. I need a break, he said, his voice trembling. Kara is speechless as they drive in silence for a bit. I'm gonna take a nap. Wake me up when we get to where we're going, he said, reclining his seat and closing his eyes. The gas station was at a four-way stop in a heavily wooded area. Heath was still sleeping in the passenger seat. Kara gently rapped on the window with her knuckle as he groggily rolled down the window. I guess this is where we part ways. I'm getting a lift with that guy over there. He'll take me where I'm going to go. You doing okay? Kara asked, her tone soft. Not really. Where are we? Heath mumbled, still half asleep. Nowhere important. All you have to do is head east, which is that way, Kara said, pointing. Any drinks in that shack over there? Heath asked, looking around. No. If you get driving in about 2 hours or so, you'll come up to a small town that has a nice tavern, Kara explained. I don't want to wait 2 hours, Heath replied, frustration creeping into his voice. Okay, well, there's a gross little trucker stop up the hill, maybe 20 minutes from here. It's a rough place from what I hear, Kara suggested, reluctantly. I can handle myself. Where is it? Heath asked, determined. Kara is a little sad she has to point out the direction, as if she's contributing to the downfall of a good man. What's it called? Heath asked. It's Red Drum something. I've actually never been there before. Just heard stories about how it's a bad place, she continues with a playful, spooky voice. Ghost stories about how the name is cursed. Say it to anyone, you die. Heath hasn't much patience for these games. His mind is on the prize and nothing else. You're telling me it's a haunted bar? Kara replies with a coy tone. She still has hope she can cheer him up, maybe talk him out of it. I'm just telling you what I heard. She then waits a moment before beginning to slowly back towards her new ride, looking at Heath for one last time. I wish we met under better circumstances. You take care of yourself, okay? You're a good person. Her words taking one last attempt at leaving a bit of warmth within him. Heath gets out of the car to watch Kara leave while slowly making his way to the gas station payment area. Heath walked into the dimly lit gas station, his steps heavy with exhaustion. The electric door chime was a little worn out. It's glitchy. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on the worn linoleum floor. He picked up a small collection of snacks and approached the cashier, Linda. She was a middle-aged woman who looked like she'd seen better days. Need anything else? Linda asked. Her tone was as tired as her appearance. Got any cigarettes? Heath replied, trying to mask his wariness. What kind? She asked, barely looking up from the register. I don't care, he said, indifferent to the brand. Linda tossed a pack onto the counter. These are the cheapest we have. Heath pulled out some cash and placed it on the counter. As Linda reached for the money, Heath spoke up. Do you know where the Red Drum is? Linda paused, her eyes narrowing slightly. You mean the Rubrum Lectorum? Heath shrugged. I don't know. If it's a bar that's close by, then that's what I mean. Linda's expression hardened. Rubrum Lectorum is a clubhouse with a bar, but no one calls it that, and it's not open to the public. We all call it the Wheel. Who told you to come in here and asking about Rubrum? Heath felt a little need to protect himself. His tone changed subconsciously. No one special, just a young girl outside. She's gone now. I just need a place I can get a drink, Heath explained. He was hoping this would reduce the mild hostility he was getting. The Wheel isn't the place for that, Linda said, her tone carrying a note of warning. He was conflicted. He was feeling uncomfortable with the confrontational way she was protecting the information, but was also in desperate need to quiet the voices, which shortly overpowered any concerns of anxiety she could cause him. So he simply asked. She said it was haunted. Is it? Linda sighed, clearly tired of the conversation. Is it haunted? Heath is expressing a bit of reluctance, asking, but then passes the awkwardness on to himself. At this point, he'll do anything to get to where the drinks are. She said the name is haunted. Linda glanced around the empty store before answering. Just be careful where you say that. Heath raised an eyebrow. He was interested. Maybe there really is something to this. You don't seem to be very worried, he said, baiting her to say more, which she did. I'm in with those boys, I'm fine. Her voice tinged with pride. Heath pondered her words for a moment. If I went to this clubhouse, will anyone there give me any problems? Linda shrugged. I don't know. Depends on you, I guess. I never go there myself. Heath was feeling a little fear as he was getting close. Honestly, I don't care if they do, he said casually. She told me it was this way. Is that right? She said I can't miss it. He pointed in the direction car ahead. Linda turned her head over to the back, not looking at him when she nodded. That's it. I'd reconsider, though. Heath forced a smile. I will. Thank you. He gathered his things, and as an afterthought, he pulled out his sobriety coin. Oh, here, I got something for you, he said while flipping the coin towards Linda. She caught it, surprised, and looking down to see it was a 25-year sobriety coin. She looked back at Heath as he exited, the sun starting to set. The drive took Heath through a landscape that seemed to close in on him, the forest lining a single-lane highway like covert warning signs. The night air crept in through the broken window. After 10 minutes he had to take a piss, so he pulled over. The silence and the stillness caught him off guard a bit. He was such a city boy, he never took the time to slow down. Walking into the first open space he found, he unzipped and began to relieve himself. For a second he had the thought that he could hold on, that he could avoid giving up. Then he felt the overwhelming urge to say to himself, you deserve all of this. Immediately he began to cry, calling himself worthless and a loser. As he was returning to his car, he looked into the back seat and saw the collar. There was nothing left to hold on to. He finally arrived at a place that looked more mundane than the haunted bar Carr had described. A large neon sign read, The Wheel. It was casting a pale glow over the parking lot. Heath was able to find space quite easily and parked under a flickering street lamp. As he got out of the car, he muttered to himself, Looks harmless enough. It was a short walk for him to get to the front door. He looked across the street and saw a motel, thinking maybe he can stay there tonight. After all, he has to sleep at some point. Inside, the bar was dark and gritty, with scattered patrons nursing their drinks under the dim light. Vanessa, the bartender, barely glanced at him as he approached the bar. Hi there, can I get a beer, please? Heath asked, trying to mask his desperation. Vanessa's eyes stayed glued on the television above the bar, her voice devoid of enthusiasm. We might not have the brand you like. We only have the kind that truckers or bikers like, and you don't very much look like a trucker or biker to me. Heath's patience was wearing thin. This reminded him of the girl who disrespected him when he got the ashes, and that made him think of Julie. His father being dead flashed into his mind, and then his nephew. Why is it so hard for me to get a moment where I can feel peace? He then decided to make himself heard. You're not going to serve me? I can go get a truck if that's what it takes. I've had a hard day and I would literally kill for a drink. You want me to kill someone? I'll do it. You just say the word. I'm at my limit right now, so help me. Finally, Vanessa looked at him, up, then down, before moving over to the beer taps. Her hair was pulled back, revealing a face devoid of makeup or any conscious attempt at a style. If you took a second to look, you could see that maybe there was a native background which would explain her silky straight black hair. If she were to tell you, you'd find that it was really a mixture of German and Scot-Irish, which would account for her light and pale complexion. She is constantly reflecting a cold and functional approach to life. Her naturally large and expressive eyes were always muted and reserved. She gave away nothing, blending seamlessly into the background whenever possible. Dressed in a plain t-shirt and black pants, she was the perfect picture of practicality, not having any sort of an aesthetic that would draw attention. It was never on her agenda. You could feel that when she chose to get your attention, it was through clear, purposeful action. She poured a drink with the same low enthusiasm and slid it over. On her hand was a large capital V, or perhaps it was a Roman numeral 5. She never told anyone which one it was. The tattoo itself was bold and black and just between her thumb and pointer finger. Finally, she spoke to him, her voice clear and direct, not a degree of playfulness. She made her intentions abundantly clear. Don't say I didn't warn you. Heath felt quiet for the first time. The rush of adrenaline started to make him feel invincible. The idea of doing something wrong was, for lack of a better word, intoxicating. He was a little scared to touch the glass, but the rush was too strong. After holding out for what seemed like an eternity, he broke his vow of sobriety. He took a sip, feeling the rush of alcohol flood into his veins, and then he instantly finished the rest of the beer in one large gulp. He placed the glass back on the table with a foreign feeling of enthusiasm. "Another!" he shouted, almost out of breath. Vanessa didn't even look at him. She poured him another without speaking a word, sliding it over as if it were only to quiet him down. He savored it this time, trying to let the alcohol soothe his frazzled nerves. He let the liquid sit in his mouth on the first sip, feeling the tingle of the carbonation on his tongue. He then paid extra close attention to the aftertaste, trying to identify any subtle notes he missed the first time. Theo, a man in his late 40s who'd been watching him, saw an opportunity and moved closer. His well-worn flannel shirt and faded jeans reflected a life on the road. His body language showed too much eagerness. It was seen in his rhythmic finger tapping and occasional glances around the room. His eyes, sharp yet wary, they constantly scanned for acknowledgement. All while his tense shoulders and clenched jaw betrayed him, showing off his fear for rejection. His rugged exterior matched the tight grip on his drink. It expressed his eagerness for connection in this dark place. If Heath were to ask, he would find that Theo is of Italian and Irish descent. He had no idea of that connection he had to Vanessa. She made sure Theo knew very little about her.
"Hey, you new here?" Theo asked, his curiosity evident. Heath nodded. "I am, just passing through." This excited Theo. "Oh, really?" he replied, leaning in slightly. "Had a bad day. Know what I mean?" Heath sighed. Theo saw this as an opening. "Tell me about it." He grinned and turned to Vanessa. "Hey, bring us a couple shots of whiskey." Then, turning back to Heath, he added, "The reason we all come here is to swap a good story. None of the veterans are telling me shit, though." Heath shook his head. "I wish I could. I don't have time for stories. I got someplace to be." Vanessa dropped the shots on the table with a clatter, spilling some of the liquor. "Come on, you're already here," Theo said, egging him on. Heath looks as if he's gonna fight the urge, but then promptly succumbs to the temptation of the party, gulping down the shots quickly before slurping half of his beer. "Fuck it. One more, and one for my generous new friend over here," he said to Vanessa before extending his hand to Theo. "I'm Heath, by the way." Theo shook his hand, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Theo, I've been waiting a real long time for this. I feel like a kid on Christmas morning, exclaimed Theo, which caused Heath to then chant a nervous reply. To drowning our sorrows, Theo then added, and hiding from death, in here. His tone playful, he said this while gesticulating with his hands like a medieval court jester. They sip from their drinks. Heath is attempting to let the excitement settle, however. Theo is letting it accelerate, moving close, reacting as if he's going to be talking to God. Theo then continues, Death creates sorrow, and that makes us run. But once he comes in here, we'll all have some fun. I just hope I'm wasted when he shows up. Theo begins laughing obnoxiously, and Heath looks pensive. After a moment, he realizes that Heath isn't laughing. He tries to remedy the inadvertent social faux pas that he may have made with a more playful tone. Is my excitement depressing you? Heath shows apologetic body language. He didn't mean to disrupt Theo. He was just deep in thought about his own life. No, death. He seems to follow me everywhere I go. If I'm lucky tonight, having a few drinks will help me forget all about that. Theo understands and reins the energy back. A lot of dead bodies in your past? Theo asks. His tone casual, but his eyes are sharp and focused. Yeah, you could say that, Heath replied, taking another sip. Theo lit a cigarette, offering the pack to Heath, who declined with a wave. You said you had someplace to be, Theo asked, as he inhaled the cigarette smoke. I'm on my way to see my sister and her family at their lake house. Haven't been there in a long time, Heath admitted. The words fell heavy. Why's that? Theo asked, genuinely curious. Heath hesitated, then spoke with a deep tone of regret. I killed her mother and her son, and then our father and my baby girl. Every person on this planet thinks they were all accidental, that I'm the unluckiest man in the world, but I know that it's not all about luck. I know it was all about me. Theo took a real deep drag from his cigarette, exhaling very slowly. This is what he came here for. This moment is not to be wasted or rushed. What about your sister? Does she know that it all wasn't just bad luck? Vanessa dropped down 2 beers, her attention still divided between the bar and the television, which is showing the news. She stood there for a moment. If you looked at her, you would know it had nothing to do with you. It would seem that she had something on that television that required all of her attention. Heath shook his head with a subtle degree of sorrow. She can't prove anything. The demon that's inside me never leaves evidence. I honestly just worry for the safety of her family. There's always a chance my bad luck will cost every one of them their lives. Who knows if I have any good luck left? Theo just gulped down his beer until the mug was empty. With a loud clink, he placed it on the table and leaned over the bar, tapping Vanessa on the hip to get her attention. The death glare she shot at him in return froze him in place, snapping him back to his seat like a scolded child. He sank into an awkward slump, his attempt at an apologetic shrug doing little to redeem him. Sorry, sweetheart, Theo muttered, raising his hands in a mock surrender. I just wanted 2 more. Don't go crazy and kill me, okay? Me and my pal are just swapping war stories, and I'm about to get my old bloody hands all over this place. He turned his focus back to Heath, the awkwardness already fading into his usual brushed tone. Is she expecting you? Your sister? Vanessa returned with the beers, sliding them across the bar. Theo kept a safe distance this time, flashing a subtle nod of thanks without meeting her eyes. Heath took a slow sip before answering, his voice measured. Honestly, I don't know, he said, swirling the beer in his glass. But I'm coming, so we'll see in a few days. Theo didn't say anything for a moment, just drank his beer. Then, leaning in, conspiratorially, He began his story. I have this hallway. It leads to an empty space before the bathroom across from my bedroom. It's barren. It's like that because my wife wanted it that way. She never liked art or anything like that, especially on the walls. She wanted everything plain. I hated it. I had my own little area, which I slowly came to resent. Every time I would leave it, it felt like she stole my house from me. This was hers, and she allowed me to have a little space. Can you fucking believe that? I worked my ass off getting that place, and what do I got to show for it? So you know what I did? Took her out on a road trip. A long one. Well, long for her. I'm used to the road. I take that 18-wheeler across the country 5 times a month. So driving in my Jeep down one of those long, dusty highways was a vacation. Theo took a moment to savor the memory, sipping on his beer. Nothing but road. We had the top down, wind in her hair. She was in heaven. I even took the doors off at a rest area early that morning so she could feel like she was flying. Stand up, leaning on the windshield like in the Titanic. You know what I'm talking about, Heath? Heath nodded, his attention fully on Theo now. Then I see down the road a little dot. The first thing I've seen in days, literally days. Nothing but us in the open road. Can you believe that? So I'm looking at this dot, getting bigger and bigger, as I'm getting closer and closer. My wife is laughing and coasting as I begin to drive faster and faster, thinking about my empty house full of nothing. All my money she spent. How all my hard work amounts to nothing. Emptiness. Then I see what we're following. A semi that's facing us because it's being towed. It looks like you're about to get in a head-on collision. And when I thought that, I just hit the gas. Theo's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, and the bar around him seeming to grow quieter. Just start burning rubber. Pedal to the metal, you know? My wife is getting a little nervous. I calm her down, telling her to stand up and feel the wind in her hair. Being a good girl, she done as she was told. As I was beginning to pass, I considered just clipping that wheel to the right, taking us both out. But I had a thought that saved my life, a little angel, so to speak, telling me that she was the problem, not me. So I kicked her out the fucking side. The timing was perfect. Her head was obliterated. Nothing was left. Gotta tell you, that moment felt like an eternity. I saw the look of fear in her eyes, the look of surprise. It's an impossible look to recreate. Never seen it done before. Just close my eyes. Sometimes I get a little hard just thinking of it. Then the reality sets in and I slam on the brakes. The tow driver slams on his and he screams like a maniac. I bet he was new. I'd see shit like that all the time when I was driving. Fucking amateur. I will admit it was a good thing he did because it reminded me how to act like regular people are supposed to. So I get out of my car screaming and sobbing like a husband would, crying over her headless body. Oh, that smell. That heavy blood smell. I can almost taste it. It's truly unique to the situation. I've tried to recreate it, but guns give off a different odor, and I can't take the head off like that with a knife. Tried a sledgehammer once. I was pretty close, but it's never been close enough. Anyway, my act must have been pretty good because everyone believes that it was an accident. That is something we both have in common. Accidents. They just happen to us. Theo sipped his beer, lost in dark revere. I went to art therapy and all that shit. Shrink recommended it. Her father paid for it. He always liked me. So it painted me a portrait of her like Samuel Little likes to do. It's kind of my homage to him. The best thing is that feeling I get when I leave my bedroom. The hallway wall ain't empty no more. I hang that portrait there, and when her family comes up to check in every other month, they look at it and weep. I almost always just about bust my fucking pants when that happens. I don't know why. Theo stood up abruptly, startling Heath a little bit. Wow, wow, that felt good. I fucking love this place. I want to hear all about your kills when I get back, okay? As he was standing, the entire bar erupted. Patrons from around the bar started surrounding a lone man in the back. Others were exchanging money. Theo leaned in on Heath's shoulder, pointing at the TV, acting like a kid in a candy store. Oh my holy hell, that fucking son of a bitch did it. He's unstoppable, Theo exclaimed. Theo then walked to the bathroom, leaving Heath alone with a visually angry Vanessa. She looked over at the man in the back who was being celebrated with visual jealousy. She then looked over at Heath and robotically shifted her face to look scared, as if she was worried about him, and if he wasn't so rattled, he would have seen it. The news was describing a series of murders, issuing a warning. Vanessa's in character now. She gracefully pulled out a bottle from behind the bar and poured him a glass. As Vanessa was sliding it over, she tried smiling through her mask of concern she had put on for him. It was almost perfect. Heath is now looking at her. He has never felt this scared. Fight is not on his mind, only flight. He looked at his hands and they were almost trembling. All those thoughts of worthlessness were gone. He knew at this moment he wanted to be as far away from Theo as he could be. If staying here with him meant risking his life, then he certainly wanted to leave. It was never more clear to him than it was now he wanted to be alive. So you got room for a stiff one? After all that? It's on the house, Vanessa said, her tone almost mocking him. If he was a sound mind, he would have heard it. Unfortunately, it sounded like true concern. Heath took it, drinking it pretty fast, leaving the glass empty. Thanks. I was just leaving, actually. What do I owe you? Vanessa looked at him. You heard what he told you, right? He swallows nervously.
I'm trying to forget it, actually, Heath said. You can't forget. He won't forget. She said this to him as he was standing up, placing $100 bill onto the bar.
I only have 100, but you can keep the change. I don't care. Vanessa was serious in tension, put her hand on top of his. You need to listen to me. I'm trying to help you. People heard what Theo told you, and if you just walk out of here, you're fucked. I can get you out if you just listen to everything I say. Put your money back and sit down. Heath looked around inconspicuously, then followed her orders. Vanessa's dropped down to a whisper. You need to be real honest with me. If that guy comes back before you and I get to the bottom of this, you could be in for some real trouble. Heath, nervous, nodded and said, Okay. Vanessa continued. Did you kill your family? Heath shook his head. Not physically. I'm responsible for it. I know it's all my fault. Vanessa's eyes bore into his. Ever feel the urge to kill someone? It felt weird saying that he didn't. No. Heath replied firmly. Vanessa looked around and then spotted a waitress in the back sitting at a table. She looked as broken and as empty as Vanessa was. Jennifer, I'm gonna go take this guy to the motel. Can you tend bar? I'll be back in about 20. Vanessa opened a wallet, putting money in the register. Come with me, now, she said to Heath, grabbing him by the arm. As they were opening the front door, they caught Theo exiting the bathroom. He was acting hurt. You're leaving without me? We were just getting started. Don't go now, Theo called out. Vanessa glared at Theo. He's mine, she said firmly before shoving Heath out the front doors. Outside, Heath had started staggering, trying to come to grips with what he had heard. He was starting to feel how he might be in serious danger based on Vanessa's behavior. In a flash moment of realization, he stopped moving. Wait, I gotta get into my car, he said. No, we're going to the motel, Vanessa insisted. I have to go, he said, his voice raising in desperation. You can't go, Vanessa repeated, her grip tightening. Heath then fainted, falling to his knees, barely conscious. Vanessa half carried Heath into the dingy motel office, struggling under his weight. She set him down gently on the bench by the door and approached the front desk, Ivan, the man behind the counter, looked up with curiosity. "Who's that? Is he going to be sick?" Ivan asked, eyeing Heath warily. Vanessa flashed a flirtatious smile. This is where her beauty really kicked in. She was well aware she had it, never afraid to use it to further her agenda. "My midnight special hit him harder than I thought it would. Looks like we just gotta get him to bed." Ivan's concern deepened. "Is he staying in your room?" Vanessa's smile grew sly. "This guy right here is only an opportunity to get in the books." Ivan frowned, clearly relieved. "Just business, then." He rummaged in the back and returned with a key. Vanessa handed him a folded piece of paper, still maintaining her flirtatious demeanor. "Can you look into this for me?" she asked sweetly. As Ivan took the paper, Vanessa turned back to Heath, who was starting to stir.
"Oh shoot, just 1 second, honey," she said to him as she moved over to Heath.
"Hey baby, what did you say your sister's name was? We need to know," Vanessa cooed, trying to arouse Heath. Heath groaned, his voice groggy. "Emily?" She held his face. "Yeah, Emily. What's her last name?" Vanessa pressed, her tone still sweet. Heath blinked slowly, trying to focus. "Her last name?" She tried to keep him awake. "It's for security purposes," Vanessa explained. "Brown," Heath mumbled. "Is she married? Is that her maiden's name or her husband's name?" Vanessa asked before her patience wearing thin. Heath was barely coherent. "Emily," he muttered again before slipping back into unconsciousness. Vanessa sighed and found his wallet before she turned back to Ivan. "Get that? I need you to find her," she said, touching his hand and handing him the wallet.
"You can do that for me, right?"
Ivan looked dubious. "It's my job to find things. All I ask is you give me a few days." Vanessa glanced at Heath, then back at Ivan. "We don't have a few days, sweetie. I'll have my fun with him, then I'll have fun with you. Okie dokie?" she said, skipping backwards and blowing kisses as she made her way to Heath. The room was dim, the only light coming from a small bedside lamp. A small, melancholic tune played in the background, filling the space with an eerie, calm feeling. The room was furnished simply with a chair and a small table and a bed. Vanessa was sitting at the table, meticulously giving herself a manicure. She was dressed in sexy lingerie, her attention focused on her nails. "I'm going to tell you an awfully detailed story, so listen very carefully. It applies to you," Vanessa began, her voice carrying an edge of menace. She looked over her shoulder to ensure she had her audience's attention, then continued her story. The music playing from her cell phone added an emotional depth to the otherwise clinical atmosphere. In the beginning, it was a regular dive bar. The only channel we got was the news. The regulars would gather around talking anytime a death or kill spree was reported, working out the perfect crime. Just play though, just passing the time. That is, until Greg French actually went out and did one. The look on his face when they spoke about it on the news infected everyone in the room. He then went and bragged about it at some other hole in the wall where a few normal people in the back overheard, told the cops, and that was that. No more games. Vanessa paused to tend to her nails, the UV light lamp casting a ghostly glow on her face. The muffled yelling from behind her grew louder, but she ignored it. Her focus was on the story. It was a little while before Easton brought it up, but when he did, it was clear to everyone they hadn't stopped thinking about it. So, they then made a few rules to keep them all safe from the police. The strategies were slowly built. Then the contest, the non-pattern rule, and naturally, a point system came. You kill a guy with a gun to the head, you have to do it in the chest next time, or you lose points for making a pattern. It was simple, but it kept from looking like a serial, which can get a motivated detective knocking on your door. That's the last thing anyone wants.
She stopped again, giving all her attention to the gloss on her nails before the lamp turned off. She closed a wooden box beside her. A glimpse of the glass vials inside was visible as it swiftly shut. Vanessa stood, grabbed a water bottle and a large towel, and walked into the bathroom to fill it. There's that 6 degrees rule that one fuck-up Theo at the bar obviously ignored, and he wonders why they all choose to ignore him. He doesn't even understand the name of the bar, even though the name is dumb. The Red Reader, or so Easton claims it to be. I don't know why they have to be so clandestine. Vanessa exited the bathroom with the water bottle now full. The whole thing is unsafe if you ask me. A secret club leaving hints. Besides, I thought it would have to be Lectorium Rubrum to mean the Red Reader. News and blood. It's their private joke. The riders and drivers all call it the wheel. Anyone hears that private joke is to die, has to keep it private. How are you going to enforce that? She turns to look at Heath, gagged and blindfolded, securely tied to the bed. Vanessa climbed onto him, placing the towel over his face, slowly pouring water onto it. Where was I? Oh yeah. Thick-ass Theo. The rule is obvious, right? That moron killed his wife. Connections get you caught. They'll never talk to him now. He's a huge liability. I'm surprised he's still alive. Vanessa stopped, allowing Heath to breathe. His chest heaved as he gasped for air, the wet towel clinging to his face. She watched him for a moment, an erotic look deep within her eyes. We have a contest every year. Whoever has the most points wins. There's never been a lady champ. You are going to help me change that. Vanessa slowly poured more water on the towel. Heath began thrashing around and she almost fell over. She then punched him in the face a few times, causing him to stop. She got a little aroused in her special area when she saw the blood bleed through the towel. She checked to see if her panties were matching the dampness of the towel. It was almost identical at this point, except for the blood that got it all started. She slowly poured again. I feel it's unfair that firearm marksmanship isn't thought to be as impressive as bladed kills are. The point system rewards more hands-on, making most hits with a gun a waste of time. Using drugs and rope are options, but you don't score as high as you would if you didn't. Plus it risks hitting that frustrating pattern rule if you don't vary your drugs and rope. Vanessa stopped, allowing Heath to breathe. He coughed and sputtered, trying to shake off the residual water from his face. The tight bonds around his wrists and ankles made any significant movement impossible. This really got her going. As he was fighting to escape, she was imagining all sorts of deplorable things. She had to stop. She doesn't want to have to change her underwear. Matching lingerie is all part of her routine. With a deep breath, she continues. It's harder than you think. You'd have to kill 20 different people, all in unique ways within the year. They have given a few of the other women a handicap to compensate. One hack named Macy even got to second because of that. No one respected her points at all. She had to do way less than Denver, who came in 5th. It just wasn't very impressive, but I digress. Vanessa slowly poured more water on the towel. Heath struggled, his movements growing weaker. If I'm gonna get to the top, it's gonna be by following the rules. Then, when I do win, they will become obsessed with me. Vanessa stopped again, allowing Heath to catch his breath. I'll show them that I don't need their pathetic charity. Then, bam! You're yakking about your family to that fat fuck and I get me an epiphany. She slowly poured more water on his face, almost long enough to drown him. A knock on the door interrupted her. She smiled, hopping off Heath, who began shaking and screaming like a madman. She gazed at his performance, then turned to the motel door with playful excitement. Oh hush, it's probably just Ivan. Opening the door, she greeted Ivan, who handed her an envelope. She leaned on the door frame, flirty and casual. He was very attracted to her. Looking at her dressed like this was distracting. Heath continued shaking and screaming, but they ignored him, casually conversing in the doorway. "Did you find them?" Vanessa asked. "I found that cabin, and a little on the husband, but there's pretty much nothing on the kids. All I could find out is that she has twin boys," Ivan replied as he handed her the wallet. "That's all you could do?" Vanessa pouted. "You had nearly nothing written on that paper. You're lucky to even have what little I did find on such short notice." "There might be some information in police records, but my guy does not work at night. I'll have to dig into that later," Ivan explained. Heath's yelling and struggling grew louder. Vanessa glanced back, annoyed by the noise. "I suppose this will have to do, for now," she said. She looked back again, visibly irritated by how loud Heath was being. "How long do you think it will take for me to get there?" "I'm driving," Vanessa asked. "Probably 2 days if you leave tonight." "I'd leave tonight. The Hammer just put up a Sandra Lake for about 30 points. That puts him ahead of you by 65 or so," Ivan advised. Vanessa was honestly confused. 30 points for a Sandra Lake? That's not a hard hit to do. Ivan smirked. The Sandra itself wasn't hard, but he used a pick instead of a gun. He did it during the day, in public, with no evidence, no witnesses. "So it scored an extra 25, Ivan explained. "I don't buy it. It can't be done. Where did he find the time? We just saw the Stable C put up a few hours ago. The news had just reported it," Vanessa said. She was very skeptical. "It was on the books, and it was spoken by the reader, so it's real," Ivan confirmed. Vanessa sighed. "He's going to be real hard to beat." She was silent for a moment, looking over at Heath, who was still screaming. She then casually walked inside and repeatedly stabbed him to death. Returning to the doorway, a little bloody, and she asked, "Okay, what do you give me for that?" Ivan, adding it up in his head, replied, "Well, the stabbing is just a 2, because he only poked him like 6 times. This offended her. It was 9. Clearly not 6, 9, Vanessa retorted. "Whatever. It was more than 1 and less than 90. Plus, you got dirty. On top of that, you drugged him on your own turf. You bound him. I'm not sure what else before looking around, but a rough guess would be maybe 8 points, Ivan said. "You're kidding me. Should I stab him more times? I can go do that," Vanessa offered. Ivan, frustrated, said, "If he got the time to do over 100, I could bump it up to 10. If he weren't dirty, that could make it closer to 12. If he wasn't tied up or drunk or caught in a web." She heard enough. "I get it. It wasn't my best. But this is a clean room. I'll leave clean. So this is a clean kill," Vanessa interrupted. "You know that it's not clean. I can give you a boost, but I'll have to put it down as a charity kill," Ivan stated. "Don't fuck with me, Ivan," Vanessa warned. "Any of them could have cut that guy up. You know what kind of kills get the big points. I know that you know," Ivan said, indignant. Vanessa sighed. "You're right. I'm sorry. So if we add this guy to my list, I'll need 56 more to get in the lead." He didn't look at her with optimism. "You only have a week to do it. It's not looking too good, honestly," Ivan said. "Well, I got plans for something," Vanessa said, holding up the envelope. "I can do a wee whole slaughter. Clean." He smiled, slowly matching hers. "Oh, now that's impressive. There has to be no survivors. All of them have to die differently. There can't be any drugs in their system. It can't be tied up. And they have to suspect whoever did it was family," Ivan explained. "It's his family. I can make certain people think it was him, no problem," Vanessa said, looking at the body for a moment, thinking. "Hey, what if they're drunk? Does that count, like, a few dinner?" Vanessa asked. "I guess a few of them can be drunk. Not everyone in the house," Ivan replied. Vanessa was elated. Her smile was almost from ear to ear. "Find out for sure. It's crucial. What if they tie themselves up? Who knows what kind of kinky sex these people have in that cabin? I think one person can be tied up. You can't drug and tie them all up. That's not the issue. It's going to be meaningless as someone from the family escapes. You sure you can do it clean? How confident are you? Ivan asked. I'm 100%, Vanessa declared. Ivan was thinking for a moment, imagining the kill. Will yours be a day job? He asked, forcing her to pause for a moment to think. If I can. I won't know what my options are until I get there, Vanessa replied. Ivan was lost in thought, looking at Heath strapped down. Why do you tell them everything? She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to relive the feeling she had when she was on top of him. I like to talk to them. I wanted them to know what I was doing and why. It's better when they know. Albeit, I didn't get a chance to tell them before you came around, Vanessa explained. Ivan was silent, thinking about it. If you leave now, I'll clean this up. That'll take a few hours if I drag my feet. I'll then go to bed, and I'll put the WeHo attempt on the books in the morning. Then, just hope Hammer doesn't check the listing until after it's done. It's not much, but it'll get you some much-needed breathing room. She felt excitement. This emotion was rare for her. Thanks. You're the best, Ivan, Vanessa said. I know. Just don't forget to pay me, Ivan replied. Vanessa entered the suite. She put on a robe as she quickly packed up all that was out in the room. She took out a pair of latex gloves and wiped down the wallet and cleaned up the only 2 cards that were inside it. She went over to Heath's body and gently placed it in his hand and then the other, making sure to get his prints all over it and then on the cards before putting it in her bag. Then she took a quick glance around the room and kissed his dead body on the cheek before heading out into the dark and unforgiving parking lot.